From the station working for you, this is WRTV News at 7, streaming now.
After battling the deadly virus, some COVID-19 patients have reported lingering health issues. Good evening at 7 o'clock. I'm Mark Mullins.
Back in April, 30-year-old CJ Fields just thought he had a sinus infection. Then came the high fever and shortness of breath to the point he needed to go to the hospital. It turned out to be the coronavirus. He was put on a ventilator for 18 days because his lungs were not recovering. After spending about a month in the hospital, he recovered from COVID-19, but in the days to follow it, it was a struggle. Fields had to regain strength in his legs to be able to walk, and now, as a side effect from the virus, according to his doctor, he has been diagnosed with tachycardia and his high blood pressure.
My mind is like, why me? Like, why my age? And just why all of a sudden this thing attacks me the way it did, when even older people, even with issues, don't have it as bad. You know, I don't know, it just floors my mind, because it's like, what happens if I get it again? Am I going to go down the same road? I mean, they can't, no one can answer that right now. So it's, I don't know, just a scary situation.
Other COVID-19 patients have reported similar lingering health issues like difficulty sleeping, breathing, fatigue, body pain, and cognitive problems months after recovery.
The Indiana State Department of Health reports 6,655 new coronavirus cases. 19 more Hoosiers died with COVID-19, bringing the total number of deaths to 5,688. Since March, more than 350,000 Hoosiers have tested positive for the virus. More than 4.3 million tests have been administered in Indiana. Also today, the health department updated its color-coded map showing the likelihood of the community's spread of coronavirus. And as you can see, almost the entire state remains in the two worst categories, orange and red. All of central Indiana is in orange. However, the positive test rates have fallen a little in Boone, Hamilton, and Madison counties to where they are on the lower end of the orange level.
Musicians are getting a chance to shine on an unlikely stage, reaching audiences they've been missing during the pandemic. Our Cameron Riddle shows us how music in transit is making a difference for musicians here at home.
This year has been especially hard on local musicians who typically rely on gigs in restaurants and clubs to make ends meet. But for the past 9 months, the pandemic has kept that from happening.
Everybody is taking a financial hit this year, whether it's a music venue, music artists, even people on the audio video side of things.
Before the pandemic, local filmmaker Jake Huber and live venue owner Mike Angel launched the web TV series called Music in Transit, a way to highlight the Circle City's musicians as they perform live shows on Indigo buses and bus stops.
It's really that simple. We put bands on a bus, and when it allows for it, an audience too.
Season 1 was all about surprising new audiences.
You stop in your own tracks and you're like, oh, what is I'm experiencing right now? And after a while, like every single act we had formed a crowd, and they kept in touch with us when the series would be released. And through that, many acts have reached out to us saying thank you, because, I've gained a new audience. I've had people buy our records or merch just from these videos.
Seeming like I'm living off this set. Season 2 of Music in Transit will look a bit different. The mobile shows are socially distant this time around with a limited crowd. Huber and Angel are hoping Season 2 will allow the world to still see Indianapolis musicians of multiple genres who, thanks to pandemic restrictions, could use all the exposure they can get.
Hip-hop, alt-country, indie rock, other funk, everything, really. If we promote this properly, we could get a pretty broad reach for them and hopefully drive up their album sales a little bit.
Cameron Riddle, WRTV.
Season 2 of Music in Transit will premiere this month on YouTube. That's also where you can catch up on the first season.
We're waking up to some cold mornings this week as temperatures dip. And how low will they go overnight? Let's catch up with Chief Meteorologist Kevin Gregory. Kevin, another cold one we had today.
Yeah, let's do a little flashback here for you. Temperature this morning down to 19 just before 8 a.m. in Indianapolis, down to 18 in Bloomington. Temperatures won't be as cold overnight tonight. I just want to show you how we bounced back from that. Add 25 degrees from the morning low, and you come up with the afternoon high in Indianapolis, 44 degrees, 46 that in Terre Haute. Okay, city lights have taken over. Let's talk about temperatures across central Indiana. Temperatures just around the freezing mark now in Indianapolis. Shelbyville's at 34. 2 degrees cooler in Kokomo. Overnight tonight, temperatures won't be as cold. They'll still be cold. Average temperatures this time of year in the mid-20s. About 22 in Terre Haute, or excuse me, 23 in Terre Haute. Yeah, it's close to 22. 22 exactly in Peru. Okay, tomorrow, first half of the day, we'll see more cloud cover than we did today. During the day tomorrow, a mixture of clouds and sunshine in the afternoon. We'll talk about how the pattern stays the same, really, throughout the 7-day forecast, and we'll look beyond that forecast coming up.
A state panel has taken formal disciplinary action against an Indianapolis plumber accused of taking customers' money and not doing the work. WRTV Investigates has been digging into Jonathan Kirby's business practices for more than a year. The Attorney General filed a formal complaint against Kirby, alleging 8 counts of fraud, deception, misconduct, and violations of Indiana law. Wednesday morning, the Indiana Plumbing Commission met virtually. They voted unanimously to find Kirby guilty on all 8 counts. They revoked his plumbing license, fined Kirby $8,000, and ordered him to pay more than $2,800 in restitution to consumers. One commission member called it one of the worst cases he's ever seen.
I would think this was probably the most severe penalty I've seen at a commission meeting, and I've been on the commission a long time, but
Kirby did not appear at the hearing, but tells WRTV that he is working to pay people back. He won't be able to get another plumbing license for 7 years.
New details on the future of solar farms in Shelby County. The Shelby County Planning Commission approved new regulations that would oversee the installation of solar panel projects in the county. The previous ordinance lacked details and was considered weak. Homeowners have been demanding elected leaders and county boards do more to make sure future solar projects are limited in size, operate safely, and protect prime farmland and property values.
It's not a good idea to just stand back and say, you know, we tried our best and we're done trying. I think that the citizens of the Bingle area and all of Shelby County should just continue to fight for the things that we believe should be in this ordinance and not give up. But if we give up, nothing will happen. So we will keep pushing and keep fighting.
The vote from the Plan Commission now goes to the Shelby County Commissioners. The commissioners can approve the recommendations, vote them down, or send them back to the Plan Commission to make changes.
Recommended changes coming from the CDC regarding COVID-19. Up next here, new guidance on wearing masks and quarantining at home. In the past 24 hours, the CDC has come out with new recommendations on how long a person exposed to COVID-19 should now quarantine and who should get the first vaccines. While officials say a 14-day quarantine is still the best way to reduce the risk of spreading the COVID-19 virus, the CDC has offered new guidance. It allows quarantines to end after 10 days for those exposed who have no symptoms but have not taken a COVID test. Or quarantine can end after 7 days for a person exposed but has no symptoms and a negative COVID test. Meanwhile, a CDC vaccine advisory committee recommends healthcare personnel and long-term care facility residents will be the first to receive the vaccine during the first phase of distribution.
The next groups that we have scheduled for discussion are essential workers, those workers that keep our society going, and that includes postal workers, that includes individuals in meatpacking plants, grocers, things like that.
Other groups being considered those 65 and older and people with underlying conditions who are more vulnerable to the virus. The first shipments of Pfizer's vaccine are set to be delivered in the U.S. on December 15th. Moderna's vaccine is set to go out on December 22nd, pending FDA approval.
The World Health Organization is updating its guidelines on face masks for areas where COVID-19 is spreading. The WHO says people 12 and older should wear masks both indoors and outdoors in situations where you can't maintain 3 feet of distance between others. Officials say even when masks are used properly, they are not enough on their own. To prevent spreading the virus, people also need to sanitize their hands physically, distance, and avoid touching their face. The WHO also recommends masks be worn when people visit your home if there's not adequate ventilation or the ability to keep a distance of 3 feet or more.
Students' math skills are taking a hit due to the pandemic. That's according to a study released by a testing nonprofit. The study looked at information from nearly 4.5 million students. The focus was mainly on 3rd to 8th graders. Researchers found that the students performed at the same levels in reading than before the pandemic, but their math scores dropped. Researchers say math scores fell about 5 to 10 points lower than students tested last year. The study recommends school districts run their own research to find out where their students are falling behind.
Southwest Airlines is no longer social distancing on its flights. This week, the airline began selling tickets to fill every seat on board its planes, including its middle seats. The move marks an end to part of Southwest's pandemic policy. It comes after the airline announced a $1.2 billion third quarter loss because of the pandemic. Southwest says it will notify passengers ahead of time if their flight has more than 65% of its seats sold.
He's a doctor who has become a household name in 2020, and now Dr. Anthony Fauci is one of People magazine's People of the Year. People says it chose the nation's top infectious disease expert for providing guidance and reassurance to people during the COVID-19 pandemic. Despite his celebrity status, Fauci says he is focused on his job as a physician, a scientist, and a public health official. People also chose George Clooney, Regina King, and Selena Gomez for People of the Year, in part because of their roles as activists in the racial justice movement. For more video, go to peopletv.com.
Dry and cold right now in central Indiana, so is the next 24 hours different than that? And what happens for the month ahead? We'll have the December outlook coming up.
Racism is a mental health issue. The nonprofit Mental Health America says trauma is the common link. And as Alexa Liacco learns, some subtle forms of racism can hurt the most.
The moment Ryan Houston Dial stepped on this college campus, he felt at home.
This is where I want to be.
The University of Texas at San Antonio offered everything he wanted, but somehow the psychology major was left feeling empty.
I'm not feeling really well right now. I don't know what it is. I think it's more than something of just being sad.
The feelings of worry and stress only grew with the racial unrest this year and the pandemic.
My mental health was pretty low. When you have to be able to try to process a lot of these things that are going on in America and still have to go to work or go to school and act like that did not happen, I feel like you lose a part of yourself.
But Ryan couldn't accept that loss. He reached out to the Steve Fund, a nonprofit providing mental health resources specifically for students of color. Psychologists there helped him understand the emotional weight he was carrying.
Racial trauma is inherited from our ancestors who had to endure very traumatic events. And so we carry that with us.
Ryan realized he'd been living with that trauma for years.
I believe around 12 or 13 years old, it started with the Trayvon Martin case. And I remember sitting in my living room and I just started crying. And it hit a certain point to where I almost didn't even know why I was crying. And as I become older, I began to more realize I was crying because when I saw Trayvon Martin, I saw a reflection of myself that being an innocent black boy, very well in his neighborhood, minding his own business, could very well lose his life.
This pain can be healed with time and support, but without that, racial trauma can have real consequences on a person's health.
And that when they go unchecked, and they can create anxiety, they can create the depression symptoms such as sadness, such as fatigue. The more that we can equip the young person in terms of helping them to understand the various dynamics that they're going to endure or likely to endure in their life, such as microaggression, such as racial trauma, the better off this young person is going to be in the end.
Psychologists say improving this situation will not only start on the individual level by giving young people better tools and resources to improve their mental health, but it will also start with conversations about dismantling the institutional racism that exists all around us, including here on college campuses.
The impact of institutionalized racism is pretty deep. Their systems, their procedures, their structures are still those old structures that were created for a very, very few at the expense of many.
But this system can be rebuilt.
It's empathy.
And deep conversations about how our nation's past is impacting the reality we live in.
It's going to take those who are unaffected to be just as enraged as those who are affected on a daily basis. And from there, we can start to have more honest conversations about what race is.
Because together, the plea for a better tomorrow cannot be ignored.
That we just want to be seen as your equal. That's all we want.
I'm Alexa Liacco reporting.
We've been showing off holiday lights here during the 7 o'clock news for a while, and we do that again tonight. Say hello to Alan Schaefer. Nice decorations there at his home, and many neighborhoods showing off the lights. And I think it was that warm November that allowed everybody without numb hands to get out and decorate some. Thanks, Alan, for sending in that picture to our WRTV photo contest. You can do the same, and there'll be one lucky winner that gets to load up a car and go to the Christmas Nights of Lights at the Indiana State Fairgrounds. And I'll continue to show some pictures during the 7 o'clock news. Well, we showed off sunshine today, but still stayed quite cold. Let's talk about the December outlook. Temperatures seem to favor being above average. As far as precipitation, below average. We averaged just about 7 inches of snow during the month, but right now it looks like it'll be a little bit less than that. Historically, 26%, I think that's the exact percentage of white Christmases in central Indiana, just rounded off to 30%, so it's never a great chance, but one timely snow, and it happens. High pressure sits to the southwest, really over Kentucky and Tennessee. What it's doing for now, blocking the progress of the weather system you see to the southwest across Oklahoma and Texas. When we put this in motion, let it roll out through tomorrow. We roll through the day Thursday with more cloud cover in the southern half of the state. Still swings by to the south on Friday and then becomes a big rainmaker along the east coast as we go into the first part of the weekend. For us, cold and dry in the morning, but not as cold as we have been. 21 first thing in Logansport tomorrow morning, 24 in Anderson, Richmond down to 23. The wind is calm again overnight and the sky is clear. That's a good recipe for the coldest temperatures. As we rebound from morning lows in the mid-20s, we'll still warm to the mid-40s tomorrow. The typical temperature range from morning low to afternoon high right now is 15 degrees. We'll jump about 20 tomorrow. The cloud cover more noticeable in the southern half of the state. There, the temperatures across the state, 45 for the high in Indy, cooler north, not much warmer to the south. Temperatures Friday with a little more consistent sunshine across central Indiana, warm to 46 for the afternoon high. What happens as we go to the weekend? Again, we'll keep following weather systems, but at least for now, it looks like our chance for any rain or snow is low because any weather system that kind of pushes our way doesn't have a lot of moisture to work with. 7-day planner, temperatures over the next 7 days, fairly boring. Pretty typical for this time of the year. Nothing real cold, nothing real warm. Kind of sit in the middle. I guess a comfortable December week ahead. Overnight temperatures, the coolest I can find there for you probably tomorrow morning at 25. Other temperatures at times will be right around 30 for the overnight low temperature. We'll be back with more news right after this.
The annual WRTV Toy Drive is underway. You can drop off new unwrapped gifts at several used store locations. We will also be collecting items at Indianapolis area Simon Malls on Saturday. For more information, go to WRTV.com/Toy Drive. The world of artificial intelligence has come to the TV news business. A network in South Korea recently debuted the country's first AI news anchor. The AI is a replica of an actual anchorwoman and copies everything from her look and facial mannerisms to the sound of her voice. The network says the AI anchor is featured on its online channels 4 times a day, delivering the main news briefing. Uh-oh.
I hope our boss didn't see that.
Right.
You know how you'll always be able to tell it's me, guys? I make errors. Artificial intelligence probably wouldn't allow that to happen, but I mess up a lot. 45, the temperature tomorrow. I'm real.
That's what makes it so personal.
We'd rather the real you anyway, Kevin.
Thanks for joining us.
We'll see you back here at 11.